Welcome to the Been There Doing That podcast. I'm Robert Scrivener.
And I'm Gayla Scrivener.
We left the 9-to-5 grind, downsized, and our goal is to have freedom to live and to work from just about anywhere.
Well, today we're going to be talking about our gear, our vehicles, where we live. We kind of live out of our vehicles, the biggest one, and sometimes we live in them. The biggest vehicle that we have that we talked about at in our last podcast was our Alfa Silla. It's our motorhome that we bought back in 2011. And we moved into it to live full time in 2011. And I'm going to have Robert tell a little bit about how big it is, what kind of engine it is, all the, techie stuff.
Well, it is a 2003 Alfa Silla. It is a diesel pusher, Class A. And it has a 330 horse Caterpillar diesel motor in it. Holds 100 gallons of fuel, 100 gallons of fresh water, and has 2 slide outs in it. And been averaging about 8 miles to the gallon on a good day.
Did you say it was 38 foot? Okay. Yeah, it's pretty comfortable. I remember when we purchased it, we bought it at Lazy Days in Seffner, Florida, and we were looking for a full kitchen. Has propane gas stove and oven, and a lot of storage space. We have been in several other RVs, and we are quite impressed with the height of the ceiling and the storage space that the Alfa provides.
Yes, it's about a 7'9" ceiling when you're standing inside it. I think overall height is 12'9", I want to say. Makes it kind of scary whenever you're going under a 13.6 bridge, though. So, width, I believe, is 105 inches, which is a little over 8.5 feet. I think barely squeezed through a toll booth in Ohio with, I think, an inch to spare on each side of the mirrors. That was kind of fun. Not for the driver, which was me.
But we set up our office. Originally, we just took out the dining room table and chairs. It was not a booth. Some of the Alfas come with a built-in booth. Ours was freestanding furniture. So we took out the dining room chairs and tables. There was a recliner behind the passenger's seat, and we took that out and put into storage. And we put in at first we had like a workbench that we got at Lowe's. That was my desk at first, and I had a little bar stool that I sat at, and that was nice, but I wanted a regular chair, and we ended up going to IKEA and replacing that workbench with a corner desk, and it works out great. But you have moved into that, and I have where the recliner used to be, and it's kind of the extension of the kitchen. I have an IKEA table that folds down to about 10 inches, and it folds out to be a full-size big table, about 4 foot, 5 foot, about 5 foot. And each of us have a huge monitor, so we put our laptop to our monitors, and we don't really watch TV. and we've got our one filing cabinet that really needs to be cleaned out. We don't really need paper much. And so I'm pretty pleased with living in a small space. I think that we have a lot of room, really.
Yes, we do. I think it's 389 square feet if I calculated everything properly.
And you know, the slide out is it 12-foot slide out?
It is 12 foot long and 4 feet deep, I believe.
When it's slid out, it just really makes a difference. I know that there's other RVs that have slide outs on both sides, but ours is just on one side. But it's quite deep and quite comfortable. I think the only thing that we don't care for is the kind of the vinyl furniture.
Yeah, vinyl, leather, pleather, it's all about the same. Something with cloth. I think I would like something. It's nice to take a nap on a couch that is more cloth than your skin kind of sticks to the leather.
It's no fun in the summertime when you are sticky. But you know, living in an RV, it really, the heat, and because we have a heat pump, is that right?
Yes, and we do have propane and basement air conditioning, and we got a 10-gallon hot water heater. We do have propane heat too, just in case for a backup, and we sometimes have a little electric heater that we plug in the wintertime.
Well, with the basement air conditioning, it just doesn't seem, I mean, it seems like a good idea, but it does not seem to cool in extreme heat in the extreme summer. And in the wintertime, the heater doesn't seem to keep us warm. But I think that has to attribute to there's not much insulation in an RV. They're not made to be in the extreme heat, so we have to improvise.
Improvise by sticking stuff over the windshields to keep the sun out, stuff over the windshields to keep the cold out, whether it be the Klingon wrap stuff that you apply with a hairdryer, or the shiny reflective stuff to keep the heat out, or using both at the same time. Putting, just trying to avoid extremes altogether, whether it be hot or cold, and find the mild temperatures. We need to go northwest.
That's for sure. But we always seem to migrate or feel like we need to be in the coldest area when it's the coldest, and the hottest area when it's the hottest.
Why is that? I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Well, we're trying to figure out our work schedule and travel schedule. So we've been living in the Alpha, and that's our main house. We do own a house in Springfield, but when we moved down to Florida in 2008, we converted that house to rental property, and we've had renters in there since 2008, and I'm not too interested in moving back into that house. That one, how big is that house?
I think it's about 1,400 square feet, somewhere between 1,400 square feet.
And ideally, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, 1.5 bath, backyard, all of that. It'd be ideal for us, but I like living small because it kind of gives me anxiety that if we moved back into a traditional house right now, I'm just not in the mood to buy a whole bunch of furniture because we sold it all.
That we did. We had one heck of a garage sale in Florida right before we moved into this. So, I'm not looking forward to getting a traditional house, brick and mortar.
Not quite yet. We're still having too much fun. If we have wheels on our house, then we're not tied down to any one particular place.
You got that right.
Well, that's about it on our Alpha. We have 2 other vehicles. We have our Subaru, which we've had 2 years, I believe.
Well, let's see. Yes, 2 years and June, around the 15th, 16th, 14th, somewhere around there. Bought it off Craigslist. It was a Craigslist find.
Yeah, we bought that. And because since we, at this particular time, we've kind of settled around family in Missouri, so we've parked our Alpha, and we are working around the Springfield area, networking and building our business, making connections there, but staying kind of close to family, and then taking longer trips, but not so much with the Alpha. We want to do something, travel where there's not nearly, well, let me back up. Travel on roads that the Alpha can't go on. That's much more fun for us. So, what's the year and the specs on the Subaru?
Well, it's a 1999 Subaru Outback Legacy. It is it had 91,000 miles on it when we purchased it 2 years ago, which was pretty low miles. It's 5-speed with 2.5 liter engine in it, and been averaging about 24 or 5 miles to the gallon, fully loaded with all of our gear in it, and it has air conditioning.
Air conditioning's nice. We got that shortly before we went to our first overland trip around Tennessee. That was a month-long trip, and it was shortly before we got our rooftop tent that we had gotten the car, maybe a couple of months. And because we had gotten the rooftop tent probably in September, so it was just about 3 months after. And then you had done a lot of research on the Subaru, and we went to Columbia, Missouri to pick it up, and it had a head gasket. We thought if it was replaced, then, and they could prove that the head gasket was replaced, then we would pay what they were asking for. But we ended up paying about half of what they are asking for. Well, we were going to pay cash, so we were just in there and out of there. So I was pleased with the price, and we had the car for just a few weeks, and we knew that upon buying we would need to change the head gasket, and we waited a few weeks because it was overheating. Is that right?
Yes, that is right. Those models and that engine was prone for a head gasket going bad on them, and since they didn't have any documentation on proving that the head gasket had been changed or any service records whatsoever, we offered them about half of what their asking price was in cash, and they accepted, and we ended up walking out with a 99 Subaru Outback Legacy. And like I said, drove it for a couple weeks, month or so, and it was starting to overheat more and more, so head gasket had to be replaced.
We had our friends from Stewart's Auto, are on Commercial Street in Springfield, to take care of that. They take good care of us. Norm and Debbie are good friends of ours, so we appreciate them. And like I said, we went on our maiden voyage with the rooftop tent to out east to Tennessee, and had a wonderful time. Didn't have any problems, even though I think prior to us going, we might have had a little bit of problem with the clutch. I know we started having problems with the master cylinder and the slave cylinder. You had to replace something in a church parking lot.
Well, the slave cylinder went bad at the most inconvenient time in a busy intersection, and I got it to stick in one gear and made it to a church parking lot where I eventually changed it, $23 part, and it was easily accessible to get to. And it was an easy change.
Good deal. Well, then we have our Jeep. And we've had that you had that before you and I even met. So what's all with the Jeep?
December 27th, 2004, I believe is when I got that. It is a 1998 Jeep Wrangler Sport with the 4-liter inline 6 automatic with air conditioning and a hardtop. Those were 3 things that I was looking for: air conditioning, hardtop, and automatic. Now I wished I would have got something bigger and haul more stuff, but I'm stuck with the Jeep. Not really, but it's paid for and I like it.
We've had fun with that Jeep. We've had the top off in Florida. Well, I got good and sunburnt during that trip, but and we've had a canoe on top of it. We've slept on top of it with a makeshift rooftop tent, not a real one, but a makeshift one, and it was towed behind the RV for many, many, many miles. And just recently we had moved the rooftop tent to the Jeep and went out to Tennessee again. Short trip, but we didn't drive it for very much for the last couple of years, but now you're just putting some more tender love and care to it, and we're driving it more. What have you done to it recently?
Well, since I've owned it, I've stuck 5 exhaust manifolds on it that I know of. They keep cracking in the same spot. I'd have them repaired or buy a new one and then stick it on, and then a year and a half later they'd do it again. So had it exhaust redone totally, rehung everything, and it still cracked. So I think it's on number 5. And recently crankshaft sensor went out of it. That was a fun one to diagnose, and replaced it. It got a new distributor cap and rotor, crankshaft sensor, spark plug wires, pretty much all ignition side got replaced. Has a different radiator and electric fan in it. Been converted over to electric fan for a little bit better mileage, fuel economy. Recently, in the last couple months, been new exhaust, catalytic converter, and muffler, and new oxygen sensors, since it just had an old exhaust on it, which was really loud, and you did not like riding in a loud exhaust, so you wasn't going to ride to Tennessee in it. So I quietened it down for you for a little bit.
I am so glad. It was a few years ago that your dad found somebody to help you weld on a new exhaust, and he suggested this particular exhaust, and I remember you coming home with it and you said, "Oh, listen to this," and you started the Jeep. Every time you'd start the Jeep, it sounded like the loudest, like motorcycle or like a Harley Davidson, really loud or something. And it was atrociously loud. But you said that you said I'd get over it, but I never did. So thank you for replacing it, and we can at least talk to each other now going down the road with the windows down.
And when you never know, we might do a podcast live from the Jeep on the road.
Yeah, I couldn't do that with that old exhaust. Well, I've got a question.
Okay.
Why on earth do we settle for, I guess we're not settling for, but we choose older vehicles versus a brand new vehicle? Even when we are looking online or we are admiring cars down the road, our eyes go to the older vehicles. Why is that?
Well, simplicity. They look cooler. Parts are readily available at pretty much any junkyard. We like them. They look cool. Um,
Well, I know that we have talked about we don't like car payments. So we strive to just be able to pay for a car. But then people will say, well, then you had things go wrong with the car. And if you had gotten a new car, then you wouldn't have anything go wrong.
but we would have a $300-400 car payment every month, whether things went wrong or not.
I think you're lowballing car payments. I'm not sure these days. Last time we had a car payment, they were that low, but I think they're higher now.
Well, I guess last month's car payment was the exhaust on the Jeep. It was about $500. So I guess $500 once every several months, or I'd go with probably every 4 or 5 months is not too bad. So that's about $100 a month or less.
Well, another thing is that a brand new car, you tend to want to be careful with it. Not that we're not careful, but we like to go on dirt roads. We like to go off-roading a little bit, not too extreme, but even brand new Jeeps, I just can't see them out on the trail.
But they are, and a lot of the brand newer Jeeps are plastic front fenders, front bumpers, or the grills. But there are a lot of aftermarket accessories for Jeeps now to upgrade them so they can go off-road. When mine is an older one, a TJ body style, and at least the grill is metal and the fenders are metal. Yeah, I'm not afraid to put a scratch on it or a dent in it, but try to keep from it. It's hard to do.
Well, we believe that cars were meant to use, and so that's our preference. But I know that with all the driving that we do, I'm just so appreciative that you take tools with us and that you know how to fix a car, do most repairs, or at least what we can do to hobble along to get help. We've been very, very fortunate, but whether the car is new or old, something could happen. So I'm just appreciative that you know how to work on them. And I know that you've told me that you'd rather not have newer vehicles because of all the computers and stuff on them.
Yeah, don't like the newer computer stuff, electronic stuff that could go wrong. More mechanical stuff would be better for, me personally, but it's a preference.
Well, I know that you have been shopping around or researching or drooling over your dream vehicle. And what is that?
Well, a dream vehicle for me would be a mid-'80s Toyota Land Cruiser FJ60. And that would be a dream vehicle with a diesel motor, better fuel economy, and 5-speed. It has to be a 5-speed.
Why do you like them so much?
5-speed I like because, transmission's not slipping all the time. You're in control of slipping the transmission if you want to, or not if you don't want to. Toyota Land Cruisers in general, just pretty tough vehicles, and as long as they don't rust out, that's their main thing. Gets them is rust, cancer on the metal that eats through, and it is repairable, but does take time and cost money, and they're still sought after by a lot of off-road enthusiasts.
Did you learn how to drive in a Land Cruiser?
Yes, I did. It was a 1970 FJ40, the Jeep style Land Cruiser. That was it was red with a white top, just like every other Land Cruiser. It has a white top, and it was 3-speed on the column there, or 3 on the tree. took both of my feet to push the clutch pedal in, but that's the way I learned was, I think, 14 years old, driving a 3-speed. Late bloomer, I know.
You scare me a little bit when you're shopping and you show me a Land Cruiser that you want, and it comes from overseas because you can get, I guess the pricing's different. They fix them up, they come over here. And so it's a right-hand drive and a 5-speed. You freak me out when you want to get something like that because you already, well, you don't criticize. You front seat help me drive when I drive the Subaru that's a 5-speed, and because of the way I shift the gears or start. Actually, once I get started, I'm fine. It's just the starting that I have trouble with. And I have trouble with that, and then you want me to do a right-hand drive and a 5-speed? It's freaking me out.
Yes, I think as long as they think they got to be 25 years old, and you can have one imported from Australia. And I think it's $3,000 to $5,000 to have one shipped over here. Go through all the paperwork and stuff, but most of that stuff is diesel, right-hand drive, and mainly because of anti-theft in the United States. A lot of people don't know how to drive 5-speeds, and they're even more intimidated if it's a right-hand drive 5-speed.
Yeah, that's true. And so I guess I could learn, or you just drive me around everywhere like you normally do anyway. But yeah, our Subaru, we took it in either for, I think, to change the tires, and the person that was going to drive it into the garage really was hard on it, weren't they?
Yes, it was a Walmart, and well, I said it's got an anti-theft device on it, and they said, well, we'll need that. And I said, no, it's just a 5-speed. And kind of laughed and said, well, I guess I won't be driving that one in. So they found somebody else, and my mom, she picked me up, and we sat there until they got it into the shop. But I was listening to the gears grind as they was trying to get it in reverse and into forward, and I don't think they knew how to drive a 5-speed at all.
They were worse than me?
Yes, they were worse than you.
Yay! Okay, that makes me feel better. Well, we travel and work from the road. We are obviously not retired, and we're not independently wealthy, so we need to work for a living. And what we do is help our clients with content marketing, with blog posts, with e-newsletters, and social media, and we do some direct mail newsletters, a whole bunch of things digitally. And what's cool with our job is that we can work from anywhere. And at first, we talked a little bit about how our office was set up at first in the Alpha, and that's our main office. We do have a place in Springfield, Missouri that it's not our house that we used to live in, but we have a house, our home base there in Springfield, that we set up office if we need to be there for a day or so, and if we need to spend the night. So that's kind of a temporary, if we are in Springfield, because our RV is parked 65 miles away from Springfield, and sometimes we just don't feel like driving all the way home. And so each of us carry a laptop, and at our home, I was going to say home QTH, is that the lingo for ham?
Yes, the home QTH. That would be the lingo for amateur radio for the home.
Are you proud of me because I'm getting this lingo down and maybe I'm closer to taking the test?
I think you could pass the test if I will guide you a little bit, but since I can't be there to administer your test, I think you're going to have to pass it on your own.
apparently your verbiage or your lingo is rubbing off on me. So, at the home QTH, we both have larger monitors. I actually won a 32-inch TV a few years back, and that became my monitor, and I kind of miss it when we're on the road. But when we are on the road, our first trip in the Subaru, we had our camera gear, we had ham radio gear, we had computers, and then I had a bin with what I thought I needed of papers and books and notebooks and files of clients and things like that. And as time has passed, our office has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller to where all we need is, it's mainly just equipment. The camera stuff takes up room, our cords take up room, tablets, but I very rarely take any kind of papers. The last trip that we were on, I took a journal that my daughter gave me for my birthday last year, and it's a rocket journal, and it is so cool. You can write in it with these special pens. They're erasable pens that you can use on any paper, but this rocket journal, you write out everything that you want to, and then you're able to upload it, take a snapshot with your phone or your tablet, upload it. You can put it in Evernote or Dropbox or whatever system you want, and then you stick it in the microwave with a cup of water and put it in there for a little while, and all the pages disappear. They don't disappear, the writing on all the pages disappear, which is real cool. It's reusable. So getting things like that, and I have realized a lot of the stuff that I needed, or I thought I needed on our first trip, I've really slimmed down because I'm the one that kind of is the pack rat on that. I do like to take my keyboard and my mouse. I don't use it all the time, because I only use it when we're at a campground and I'm typing quite a bit, because I don't like to type for a long time on the laptop. But I think that my office takes up less room than your ham radio stuff.
Well, probably. I do like to talk on the ham radio, though. Most of it is mounted in there in the vehicle. The only thing I do change is be a couple of wires to throw in a tree, or a certain antenna, or some more wires, and possibly some more wires. You can never have enough wires for different antennas.
Well, you have I don't remember how tall, painter's pole.
Yes, it's 12 foot tall, collapses down to 6 foot, so extends up to 12 foot, and it's a painter's pole, and that's in case there's no trees around to throw wires in. I can at least get antenna up at least 12 foot and string my wire out that way.
Is that a dipole?
That would be a dipole.
Aren't you proud of me?
But you could also put a vertical on there too, but yes, I am very proud of you.
All right. Me knowing these terms, I really don't want to take the test, so I'm just saying that right now.
But you probably will someday.
All right, and also what we always take are some walking sticks. I mean, they're practical when we're going hiking, although we don't use them that way very often, because unless we think it's going to be a long hike or steep hike. But you found a great use for our walking sticks.
Yes, the other use would be solar panel, tilting a solar panel, because we do carry a 30 by 50 inch. No, I think it's 30 by 50 inch. It's a 125 watt solar panel. Direct sun, it'll produce about 6 to 7 amps at maximum. But it's walking sticks are great to tilt back the solar panel, and they're adjustable for different heights, for different angles. So that's nice.
It's great for legs for those. I mean, we just have two, so it's tilted, and it was perfect. I'm glad you figured that out and have dual use of that. And how we stay powered up for our office and what we need to do is Robert has installed 2 additional batteries. We have the battery for the ignition or for the vehicle, but then we have 2 batteries, one behind each of the seats, and somehow you've got them rigged to where sometimes they charge through the alternator and sometimes they charge through the solar.
Yes, we have 2 AGM batteries. I believe they're 100 amp hour each, and they power the inverter, the refrigerator, all 12 volt accessories, and they are not tied in with the starting battery. Keep everything separate, and the solar panel charges all batteries if I want it to, or just the 2 deep cycle batteries behind the seat, and which are hooked to various different 12 volt accessories. Ham radio runs off 12 volt, inverter run off 12 volt and then turns it into 110, so you can charge your computers, and camera batteries. And then the refrigerator runs off 12 volt or 110. We run it off 12 volt, and the solar charges everything during the day. And then at nighttime, the batteries take over and keep the refrigerator going, or anything else that we want to run off 12 volt.
Well, a few things about that. We have a refrigerator that came with our RV. It's a Norcold. It's more like an ice chest, a little tall ice chest, and it runs off of 110 and 12 volts. And since it's removable, and it's separate from our regular house refrigerator that's in the RV, it is awesome to take along with us. And it's kind of awesome to just have a refrigerator in our car and our daily driver, actually, because we put drinks in there and sometimes just keep it running all the time. And the what's cool about that is that it's not only a refrigerator, but it can be a deep freeze, and if we want it to. But we very rarely do that. And you have that going through one battery or the other. I mean, I don't understand how that works, but sometimes you have it plugged into the accessory plug. Does that go directly to the alternator?
It's wizardy science, how I do it. Have it plugged into the 12 volt accessory plug and charge in parallel going down the road if I want, or I can just run the refrigerator in parallel with the starting battery off the alternator and everything going down the road, or charge it off solar during the day, and batteries take over charging the refrigerator or whatever we want at nighttime.
What I love is that we have the inverter, and going down the road, well, one thing, a couple of years ago, you had this idea, it's like, you can work while we're going down the road. And I'm like, what? Work while we're going down the road, especially straight roads. But I kind of looked at you strange, because I get a little car sick sometimes, especially when we're on curvy roads. But I have adapted, and there are certain projects and certain things that I can do while driving down the road. It gets a little cramped with my laptop, but what I have learned and what we both have learned is when we're running on battery power, and we don't always run on battery power, but we have run several days without having any shore power or any regular electricity. We are certainly more aware of our power. And although at night when we are on battery power, it's pretty cool that we can charge things if we need to. We can charge our phones. We have LED lights. We've got a lot of different types of techniques, but typically when we're on the road, we are so exhausted. When it gets dark, we turn in, and that's how it should be, really. And then I get up pretty early when the sun comes up and start working before we have to pack up camp.
Or unless we hear thunder and then we say, crap, we gotta go.
Yes, I remember being, I think it was Arizona, and you're like, there's lightning way close. We're going to get in the vehicle.
Yeah, we were in Apache Junction at Lost Dutchman State Park, and the lightning was really close by. And that's the one time I got out of the tent and into the vehicle.
When we travel and we need to work and have projects, it just makes us think a little bit differently, organize ourselves a little bit differently. When we know our deadlines on projects, we may stop and stay at a park for more than one day and not travel so much. But we have a Verizon little hotspot. We have Sprint as our carrier on our phones, but we have driven around campgrounds and have chosen our site based off of what our little Verizon hotspot signal report looks like. And sometimes the campgrounds have Wi-Fi. Mesa Verde, we were pleasantly surprised. We stayed there for 3 days, only expecting to stay there one day, but they had satellite Wi-Fi, and we were surprised at how well that worked for us, so we stayed close to there. But when you're working from the road, there can be times that we can be very remote. But then there's times that we need to stay close to a KOA, for example, because we need to be online for particular projects. But what is so cool with what we do is that we can work from practically everywhere, but we can change our front door or change our front yard. And we've had some interesting visitors at our office space, between chipmunks, deer, snakes, coyotes.
Bear.
I did not see the bear, but I know that there was a bear that night.
Well, it was bigger than a raccoon.
Yeah, we've had raccoons in our camp spots too. But so working from anywhere, that's our goal. And we know that life's too short to be working for a living. Instead of, we just want to be happy and see as many sights as we can and be able to experience life with some adventure. Maybe that's why we have old cars, to keep the adventure in our life.
It's not an adventure unless something goes wrong.
That sounds an awful lot like what you tell me we're not lost because we have gas.
As long as you got gas in the tank, you're not lost.
Yeah, you said it better than I did. Mine could be construed a little bit weird. Well, anyway, guys, thanks so much for hanging in there with us and talking about our setup, our vehicles that we live out of. And if you have any questions, please shoot us an email, or our email is Gayla, Gayla, at BeenThereDoingThat.com. We'd love it if you'd subscribe to Been There Doing That podcast. And until next time, we'll say goodbye.
We'll see you next time.
How about will we see them?
Actually, we will talk to them next time.
Maybe we have face for radio.
I definitely do with a body like this.
All right.